All right, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Dispatches from the Field, an exciting new initiative from the Explorers Club designed to bring our global community closer together. Dispatches is really about bridging that gap and making sure that members from all around the world have the opportunity to connect, even outside of in-person events. So, this is an opportunity for us to be able to highlight some of the extraordinary work that our membership is doing and share it. So, if you're new here, let me tell you a little bit about how this works. We will begin with a featured speaker, and that talk's going to go for about 10 minutes as they talk about what amazing things that they're doing. And then we'll close the live stream, and we encourage the members to stay on for our campfire sessions, which will be small breakout sessions really designed to allow the opportunity for members to connect with each other, share stories, connect with the speaker, and just see what happens from there. You never know. So, with that, let me introduce who's going to be with us today. If you recall, last month we heard from George Butler, an incredible journalist working on the front lines, taking slow, beautifully detailed, very human images of what he was seeing. This time we are going deep and we are going scientific. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Britney Schmidt, an EC50 awardee and one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people of 2023. Brittany is a visionary scientist whose work is transforming our understanding of how ice, ocean, and climate interact. She and her team designed and deployed Icefin, a groundbreaking robotic vehicle that dives beneath Antarctic ice shelves to uncover how glaciers respond to a warming ocean. Her research not only informs climate models here on Earth, but also expands our search for life on icy worlds beyond our planet. Today, she's calling in from the field in Greenland, where she continues to lead cutting edge work on the front lines of climate science. Thank you for joining us. Please welcome Dr. Brittany Schmidt.
Hey everybody. Well, thanks for having me. And I uh, wanted to also introduce another team member from the Explorers Club, Dr. Paul Tangy, who's been our large mammal security team member here, also on the board of the Explorers Club. Well, anyway, it's really fantastic to join everybody. So I'm just going to go through kind of a whirlwind of what we've been doing for the last almost 7 weeks here in Wolstenholme Fjord. This is our team here. So we've had a total of 9 folks deploy with us, mostly scientists, engineers, and students from our research team based at Cornell University. And we're here supported by a NASA project as well as the Heising-Simons Foundation, their climate efforts here in Greenland. And we're using our underwater vehicle shown it right here, which is Icefin, which is kind of a long torpedo-shaped robotic oceanographer that we use to get underneath the ice. So that's our crew. So what have we been doing here? Well, we've had a little bit of time to represent the club. So thanks very much. This was my first and Paul's first flag expedition. And so here's us right after an Icefin dive. You can tell that because Icefin's covered with ice with the flag. Also, one of our members, Justin Lawrence, who actually is the person who got me into the club. And then we were really excited to carry one of the Rolex expedition watches with us too. And on the right-hand side is actually the three of us and our team. We went over to Dundas Village where Peter Freuchen, who is I hear second or third president or something of the Explorers Club, who was a kind of foundational explorer up in this region. And so that red house in the back there is actually his house. So a little Explorers Club connection here in Wolstenholme Fjord. So this is where we are. So we've been based out of Patuxent Space Base, which is a Space Force base. Used to be known as Thule Air Force Base. So we've been working here where a lot of work is done on kind of space awareness, tracking satellites, tracking potential missile launches, things like that are done out of Patuxent. So we're up in the kind of northwest corner of Greenland. It's been an amazing place to work. So our very first week here, we were able to see some spectacular aurora. Here's kind of an early afternoon, very early in our season. Now we're into almost 24 hours of light, which has been kind of fun. Sorry, I should have also mentioned that those houses you can kind of see down there near Dundas Point, those are the houses. So I think Peter Freuchen's house is this one down over here. So then we've got a couple shots of the ice. So this is the sea ice where we were working on the right-hand side, and some of the hazards of working in the sea ice is trying to figure out how to get around some of these cracks. And on the left-hand side, glaciers like Rasmussen Glacier, which I'll talk about in a minute. We also had some spectacular visitors, so we never actually got to see the polar bears, but they certainly saw us. And did some modifications of camp a few times, which was kind of fun when we were off site. So not alone out there on the ice. So why are we up here? Well, this is a really interesting part of the climate system. It's a great place to teach yourself how to do science under the ice, which is our kind of NASA and exploration brain. But it's also a place that's really susceptible to climate change and has made shifts, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we've got these three really cool glaciers, Chamberlain, Rasmussen, and Moltke, all of which are receding. So they've been moving back really quickly. Moltke is now moving over 1 kilometer a year. But they also have these really interesting outflow channels. So those red arrows are kind of representing the fact that water from underneath the Kennec ice stream or the Kennec ice sheet and the Greenland ice sheet actually escapes from underneath those glaciers out into the fjord here. So it's not just the open ocean that comes in, but it's also the water coming out from underneath Greenland that we're here to study, as well as their interactions with the ice. And so what else is going on here? My colleague Peter Washam, who led one of our projects, was here in 2017 and took the temperature data in the top here. And then 2025, that's a survey from Icefin and our CTD casts. And basically, we've shown that there's been almost 2 degrees of warming in less than 10 years here in this fjord. So the climate implications of that are massive. And in fact, the ice just broke out 2 days ago, which is about a month earlier than it has in recent history. So we're seeing really, really rapid changes up here. And so it's important to be able to measure those. And so how are we doing that? Well, we're doing it with this guy. So I showed Icefin in the beginning. So Icefin basically has a whole bunch of cameras and science instruments up front that sense the ocean water column, allow us to navigate under the ice and map and make all of this data that I'll show you. So here's just kind of a quick glamour shots of Icefin actually underneath the sea ice near Chamberlain Glacier. So this is a meta video. This is a video of a robot taking a video of another robot. So always fun, but there she is driving around underneath the ice. And so what have we done? This is how we get under the ice. We lift and launch. So we kind of lift the robot vertical, launch it through a hole in the sea ice in this particular case, and then go out and swim and map what's going on everywhere. The vehicle can go down to 1,500 meters. The deepest water here is about 250 meters or so. So we're able to go all the way through. And our longest drive was about 5 kilometers, which is pretty far. So we can get deep, get far, get out to all of the ice. Here's what it looks like to be inside the control tent. So we're kind of driving off of cameras and sonars, positioning data, bunch of different sensors to kind of orient ourselves underneath the ice. This is what that might look like. So we kind of, this is kind of a picture of our controls. So vehicle attitude up here, pitch, roll, heading, how deep we are, what our altitude is above or below the ice or above the seafloor, how much thruster effort we're using, what's the temperature and the salinity of the water column, powering sensors, watching the vehicle position update as we're driving towards the glaciers. So this is kind of how we do the exploration. But here's kind of the fun part of at least what we get to do from a day-to-day basis. So on the left-hand side is the imaging data coming from our top and bottom cameras on the front of the vehicle. And then the upper right-hand corner is the forward-looking sonar data. And then the bottom right-hand side is our bathymetric sonar. And so we're actually getting us 4 different perspectives on an iceberg survey. So this is at Moltke Glacier. We drove up to this really massive iceberg, and we're actually swimming around underneath, beside, and mapping the iceberg and looking at how the ice and the ocean interact in that environment. So left hand is just that camera image. The forward-looking sonar actually allows us to see up to 100 meters in front of the vehicle, do things like avoid risks and plan to get into some tight spaces, which I'll describe here in a minute. So back to those cool glaciers that we have with water coming out from underneath them. One of the things we don't really understand is exactly how those dynamics work. So there's melt ponds all over Greenland. There's also melting at the bottom of the ice sheet, and that water is kind of coming out from underneath the glaciers in the front. And that melting and escape of the water can drive more melting at the grounding line of those glaciers. And so that heat exchange is really, really important for understanding why and how those glaciers are moving. And so our goal was to actually swim into one of these subglacial channels kind of for the first time. So what I'm going to show you here is actually the data from that. So the very first subglacial exploration of Greenland. So we drove into a subglacial channel from the ocean side. And so what you're looking at here is the forward-looking sonar image. So this left hand here is kind of the edge of the ice, and this shadow region where there's kind of dark, almost nothing. This is actually the channel. So you can see it's about 15 meters wide at this opening, and it was about 30 meters tall when we found it. So remember, this is like a 4-kilometer wide glacier that's about 200 meters tall, and we're looking for a 30-meter hole in the bottom of it. And so we found it and swam up inside the channel, and we're able to kind of map this plume. But this is what it looks like to kind of drive inside this kind of like subglacial hole-in-one environment that we were able to put ourselves in. And so this is kind of the vehicle going about 50 meters upstream into the subglacial channel and kind of mapping that outflow that's coming from underneath the glacier. So that's what it looks like to be terrified and really excited about the kind of some of the first science that we got to do. So this is the data from that. So here's where we started. We drove towards and then up underneath the glacier. This is Rasmussen Glacier. And what you can see here, so this is the track of the vehicle and the glacier, but this is one of the ways we can plot our data. So this is the ice surface, this is the seafloor, and then this track here is data from the vehicle. And what we've colored here is turbidity, which is basically the amount of particles in the water. And so that's actually telling us that we're actually in the plume here, out of the plume here, kind of in some more plume material here, and we can kind of chase it down underneath the glacier. And we can make that kind of three-dimensional map so we can see here's the channel, here's the outflow of that plume coming out. So it's been really, really fun to get to do that exploration. A couple other places we did this, and actually we've done 2 different channels. We got into the outflow plume from 2 other glaciers. This is one where we actually found the plume coming through a crevasse in another iceberg. So that's kind of this exploration that I'm showing here. And then we got to do a really cool survey, actually helping to get the bathymetry of the environment out in front of station. They've got ships that come in here to resupply the base and the area. And so this is actually a video of us driving forward at the edge of the pier, and you're seeing kind of this bubbler system that they have, bubbling air to keep ice from accumulating near the edge of the pier. So lots and lots of science, and then a little bit of helping out the base and the folks here so that it's a more successful season. And so that's kind of what we've done. That's kind of a whirlwind tour of what we did here. And I'd be happy to ask questions. I know we're only supposed to go for about 10 minutes. Hopefully I hit the brief somewhere about there. But it's been really cool. We're looking forward to being back up here for the next 2 years, hopefully. Yeah, there we go.
Brittany, this is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing this. It's amazing the access that Icefin allows. You can actually get that hole-in-one 30-meter spot for you to be able to get this information from. I'm going to go rogue for just 1 second because I know everybody's got questions and we can get to it in the campfire. But before we stop streaming, what's one thing that has been the most surprising that you've
Oh,
you've
wow.
seen so far?
I mean, I think there's been a couple of things. I mean, the first thing is we know it's getting warmer, but 2 degrees in 10 years is insane. So that just shifts everything. So, this is a relatively, despite it being a key access point, not a lot of work has been done here. So there's a lot more to do. So that's been really exciting. I think the other thing that's been awesome actually is, it's always fun to figure out like the human side of exploration and science, and here this is my first direct interaction with with Space Force, for example. And so the folks that are here running, running the radars, running these really important detection facilities have been really, really cool. They're a lot of really young people, a lot of really interested people, a lot of space nerds. It's been super, super fun. And then we've gotten to work with the Danish and work with Greenlanders. And so there's kind of cross connection of people that are all kind of supporting each other. And then we're like the weird ones as the scientists coming in to get to participate. So I'm always fascinated by that. And I think that's one of the special things about field campaigns based at places like this, is that it's a mixture of solo time versus the elements, and then building relationships with people. And if the information doesn't get out, then it's not really useful. One of the cool things we were able to do, that survey I showed where we were surveying the bathymetry near the base so that they can have better information for the ships coming in. The really cool thing was, it was because it was so close to base, we could just make an open house. And so we had like about 40 different people come in, and the population of station right now is like a couple hundred. So we actually, and then we had like 70 people or something at the talk. So we had really a lot of participation from all kinds of people from all walks of life in that. And so as a scientist trying to like get that information out to people and trying to make it as helpful as possible, that's really special. And so I've loved being here. I think we all have, and it's been really cool.
Amazing what can be done when you open the doors for collaboration, literally, and even just in terms of sectors and specialties. Brittany, thank you so much for all of you that joined us online. Thank you for joining us. This will be recorded, and all dispatches from the field are accessible on the Explorers Club YouTube channel. And for members, please stay on the line as we enter into campfire sessions.